All right, so let's bring in political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou just to discuss some of the political developments and stories we are tracking for you today. Dr. Ndou, a very good afternoon to you. I want to start with the DA. Of course, the DA has now laid criminal charges against the Minister of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane, ahead of her tabling that budget in the National Council of Provinces. Speak to us. I mean, the DA not only filed these criminal charges against the minister, but they've also, accused President Cyril Ramaphosa of refusing to take action against ANC corruption in the executive. As we get your reaction to the DA's latest action, speak to the double standard accusations leveled against President Cyril Ramaphosa by the DA.
Good afternoon, Unati. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. The first thing that we need to consider is that the Democratic Alliance is very much aggrieved by the removal of the Deputy Minister from office. And they've also indicated that because they are not happy, they are going to ensure that they take steps that will make sure that the president will end up having to act. And this, in my view, is one of such steps. If indeed the Democratic Alliance had wanted to lay the charges against the minister, they could have done so somewhere in the past. But I think this has been triggered by the fact that the Deputy Minister from the Democratic Alliance has been removed from office. Of course, the Democratic Alliance as an aggrieved party has to find something that would make the president, the ANC and the public to be aware that there's a concern that they're constantly raising. But with all these issues happening, we also do know that there are processes that are in place that are dealing with the Minister of Higher Education, which in my view, because the DA is involved in all these matters, maybe they could have just waited for the laying of the charges. But unfortunately, they want to be seen as having done something about the minister whom they say has misled Parliament, the minister that has committed fraud, the minister who has been disloyal with Parliament.
And one wonders then what will then be unfolding given just how serious those particular charges are, including, as you say, fraud and statutory offences. There are those that believe, though, that the DA's withdrawal to support the budget votes of some national departments will very likely have no impact on whether they passed or not. Do you think we will see a shift perhaps now in smaller parties within coalitions starting to wield some form of power?
There are people in and outside the Democratic Alliance who could be very excited of what they are doing, and there are people that could not be happy with what they're doing. There are members of other political parties who could be selectively happy with some of the things that the DA is doing, but there are those who are not happy with what they're doing. And based on the developments now, this has opened the doors for even further discussions and consultations amongst different political parties, because some would see this as a tactic that derails the progress in government, and some could see this as an attention-seeking exercise by the Democratic Alliance, but some would also see this as a way in which they want to see accountability happening. But the reality of the matter is that there are discussions that are taking place amongst different political parties, and because such is happening, we just have to wait and see how decisions are therefore going to be taken based on the stance that the Democratic Alliance has adopted.
And I mean, we turn our focus back to the GNU. I mean, some people saying, why is the DA not willing to walk away from its coalition, citing national interests, as they've been saying? How viable or sustainable is this back and forth in the GNU? I mean, questions again shifting and being drawn around the effectiveness of the GNU's conflict resolution management.
My view is that you need the GNU partners to still find a way to sit down and iron a number of factors. It appears as if the understanding of the GNU by the DA talks to power sharing, and they want to extend it to a level where everything that the president has to do, he should consult with the Democratic Alliance. They also take it to an extent where even when there is wrongdoing by their own ministers, the president should not act. But that's why they are very much worried about the removal of the deputy minister from the Democratic Alliance. And they want to be consulted on everything that is happening. On the other hand, the ANC says that they lead the government of national unity. The other parties were invited to join the government of national unity, and the powers of the president should not be tampered with. Those are the views that firstly come from the DA, and the second ones coming from the ANC. And if such is not ironed out, we are going to see this kind of back and forth between the DA and the government of national unity partners continuing. These elements, as I indicated earlier, have a potential to anger or frustrate some within the GNU, and some outside could be happy with what is happening. So my view is that consultation and solid discussions still has to take place so that these political parties know their standpoint in the GNU.
Dr. Ndou, before I let you go, I just want to draw your attention on the latest within the MK party. I'm not sure how much of, the recent developments you are fair with. The deputy president of the party, Dr. John Hlophe, writing to the president of the MK party, Jacob Zuma, about developments within the parliamentary caucus, particularly citing disruptions by Duduzile Zuma Sambudla as well as Ndlamulo Ndlela, against the party leader as well as the chief whip of the party. What do you make of these latest developments, particularly as we look at just the internal league, wranglings within the leadership of the MK party?
It is not for the first time that we hear that there are disruptive elements within the MK party. It is not for the first time that we hear that the conduct of Duduzile Zuma in the MK party is disruptive, and there are a lot of people who are not happy about that. These are issues that were raised behind closed doors, and there were a lot of denials about them. We started hearing them when Floyd Shivambu was removed as the Secretary General, and he spoke about the behavior of Duduzile Zuma and Ndlamulo. Now we're getting the complaint from the deputy president of the party leveled against the very same two individuals. What we should expect is that it is time for Jacob Zuma to act, because the constitution of the party allows him to act. But it also becomes a very tricky situation, because Jacob Zuma has a very soft spot for a daughter. He might decide to ignore this issue, which has got its own implications on the party. He might also decide to act, which also has its own implications on the party and family. My view is that maybe the leadership of the party should have an opportunity to take a decisive decision on what next to be done. And another thing that we should not forget is that there are instances where, in particular, Duduzile Zuma had to have issues with the leadership of the party and the general membership. And what therefore happened thereafter is that most people said, indeed, Jacob Zuma is a soft spot on the child, and this has a potential to negatively affect the MKP.
I suppose one has to wait and see in terms of how Jacob Zuma, the leader of the MK party, will then respond to this letter, which was dated the 26th of June, 2025. But Dr. Ndou, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Political analyst Dr. Levy Ndou there for us. Of course, a story that we are monitoring for you very closely.